Welcome back everyone, it is Aric from Arcani, and today we have pretty big news about the upcoming Pokemon Go set that is set to start releasing this coming July. We've known about this set for a good chunk of time now, but we've had no images or information about what's going to be coming, but that day has finally come. We have our first look at a good handful of the cards, some product images, a product description revealing some additional cards that aren't going to be seen here. And I have to say, this is looking really promising. A lot of times these mini sets typically be very collector oriented, I guess you could say, and usually us competitive players kind of just get left out to dry, but there's actually a few cards here today that are, I think, really promising. So I'm excited to check these out with you and go over what's going to be coming in this set. As you can see, we have a few of these cards right here on screen now, but also down here we have a couple of Radiant Pokemon, Radiant Eevee, which we are going to see today. But more interestingly, we have Radiant Venusaur, Radiant Blastoise, and brace your wallets, Radiant Charizard coming out in this set too. So very excited to see what those are going to look like whenever we get some more images from the set. But scrolling down a little bit here, we also have some more set information. We are getting Melmetal V Max, which is not going to be shown today. We also have Dragonite V Star, which is not being shown today either. And looking a little bit further down, let's start checking out the actual cards that we're going to be getting here. So the first one, we have a Alolan Exeggutor V, and if I'm not mistaken, I think this is actually the first non-Galarian regional form we've seen since the Sword and Shield set started. So just kind of a cool little fun fact here. But Exeggutor, it's kind of like the Kingor V that we just got not too long ago. This one has the Growing Tall attack for a grass energy. You flip a coin of heads, search it out for up to 5 energy, and attach them to your Pokemon in any way that you like. Then shuffle your deck. Not that great. We are getting Gardenia's Vitality very soon, and that might make Exeggutor a little bit obsolete as a result, but hey, it's still nice if you can flip heads. And then the Head Swing attack for 3 colorless energy does 30 to one of your opponent's Pokemon for each grass energy attached to this Pokemon. So if we do meet the bare minimum for the attack cost, that's a 90 snipe anywhere, which isn't that great. So I don't think Exeggutor is one of the more competitive cards I alluded to, but hey, it's still cool that these other older regional forms are still getting shown some love in the TCG. However, a little bit more notably, up next we have Mewtwo V and V Star. And I just really want to give a shout to the artwork on Mewtwo V. I think this card looks absolutely sick, and I think probably looks better than the V Star here. I don't know why that's the case, but yeah, this 3D artwork just isn't doing it for me. And I'm someone who actually loves the 3D artworks. This one just happens to be a little bit plasticky looking, if that makes sense. So not crazy about the way this card looks, but I actually really do like the way this card plays. So Mewtwo, 280 HP, really solid amount of HP right out the gate here, but it has the Psy-Purge attack for a Psychic and Colorless. You discard up to 3 Psychic energy from any of your Pokemon, and the attack does 90 damage for each card you discard in this way. So I think the numbers this card hits for is actually really solid. If you discard all 3, that's 270. That knocks out most V-Stars, and with the Choice Belt, that will pretty much take care of the rest of them. And with a Sparkling Hawlucha on the field, you can actually knock out Pokemon V Max. So I think Mewtwo V Star, this thing hits like a truck, and Psychic has a lot of ways at getting powered up. Of course, we have Shadow Rider Calyrex that has been, around for quite some time now. That's going to be an evolution, so that could be a little tricky to pair with another evolution like this. We also have the Galarian Articuno that can attach energy to itself whenever you bench it. We also even have the new Clefairy coming out in the Lost Origins set, or there's even the Latias and Latios back from Fusion Strike that can get Psychic energy out of the discard. So I think Mewtwo has a ton of ways at getting up and running, and I think it remains to be seen which is going to rise to the top, but I think this card definitely has a lot of promise just for this first attack alone. But the second attack, also not too bad. Star Raid for a Psychic and Colorless does 120 to each of your opponent's Pokemon V. And I think this attack is pretty cool because it basically makes your Psy-Purge only need 2 energies to knock out any of your opponent's Pokemon for the rest of the game. So it's a nice attack you can sort of lead the game off with, and allowing you to preserve some of your energy in play for the moment too. But Psy-Purge, I think this is a really cool attack, and I definitely think Mewtwo V-Star has a lot of promise. And like I said, I was not expecting a card this potentially viable to be in one of these sort of, again, more collector-oriented mini sets that we're getting. So from there, we do have Melmetal V, and this card, to be honest, is pretty much trash, but we do have to remember Melmetal VMAX is coming as well. We just don't have a look at that one just yet. But Arm Charge, not the worst attack in the world. You can do 50, Accelerate, and Energy. Melmetal V might get Return KO'd on the next turn, but hey, being able to get some extra energy in play isn't that bad. But we'll have to reserve judgment until we see the eventual Melmetal VMAX to pair this with. The next Pokemon we're going to take a look at is going to be Blissey here. And just right off the gate, 200 HP on a stage 1 prizer. That's pretty massive. But the first attack here on Blissey is really the only thing I think that's really worth discussing any further. You heal all damage from one of your bench Pokemon. You know, one of the few applications I could see for this is maybe something like Orbeetle VMAX. You can use Orbeetle's abilities to spread a bunch of damage. And then for your actual attack each turn, you can heal off, you know, one of those damaged Orbeetles potentially with Blissey. So that seems kind of neat, but this card's definitely a little bit situational, I think. Up next from there, we have Snorlax, and this is a card that is going to look very familiar to any control players out there. It has the block ability. This is the same ability that we saw back on the Plasma Snorlax that actually was a pretty successful controlling archetype at one point. So it makes it to where your opponent can't retreat if Snorlax is in the active. So ideally, we're going to use something like a Boss's Orders or an Escape Rope to take something your opponent doesn't want in the active into the active and prevent them from moving at that point. You just have to hope your opponent has already burned their copies of Switch and Escape Rope and are going to be trapped there. So even though most decks aren't really going to be looking to abuse Snorlax, I think certain controlling decks are absolutely going to love this. You know, once your opponent has sort of run through a lot of the resources already, slap down that Snorlax, boss them up, and now they're not going to be able to move. So especially after Galar Mine rotates, this is going to be, you know, definitely another card that can fill that same sort of role in your controlling archetypes. And we do have a couple of other single prize Pokemon that might make for some decent rogue decks down the road. First one's going to be Ambipom, but Apom actually does have kind of a cool attack as well. For just 1 energy, you flip a coin of heads. You can't be damaged on your opponent's next turn, so that is really cool. You know, with your pre-evolutions, you either want them to feed into your evolution strategy or you want them to help you get set up. And Apom definitely does a good job at that. You know, being able to deny your opponent a prize while you're trying to get your evolutions into play. Definitely a solid little attack here. But the Ambipom also has kind of a similar vibe going with this ability. If any damage is done to this Pokemon by attacks, flip a coin if heads, prevent that damage. So this is the same ability we have on the Dragapult back from Rebel Clash. Even going back further than that in the past, we have things like a Noivern, there's a Cincino. We've seen quite a few cards like this over the years, but the attack also kind of does pair nicely with this. For a single energy, you flip a coin for each energy attached to this Pokemon, and the attack does 60 for each heads. So this attack definitely would normally be better on something like a VMAX because you could pile a bunch of energy on, take a hit because you have so much HP, then keep piling on energy to take an even bigger KO. Ambipom doesn't have that same luxury being a single prize Pokemon with 90 HP. So having this ability still kind of gives you that sort of play at your disposal, sometimes at least. So, and if we do want to power this up, I think probably the best partner that I can think of right now off the top of my head is going to be Cherrim, since Cherrim can accelerate as many grass energies as you want to Ambipom. This is a coin flip based attack and ability, so might not be like a tier 1 deck or anything. If nothing else, I will probably experiment with this on the channel at some point. And our other notable single prize attackers are going to be the Gyarados evolution line. But Gyarados honestly isn't even the more interesting of the two cards. Its first attack for a colorless energy, you flip a coin until you get tails for each heads. Discard the top 2 cards of your opponent's deck. So even with something like a Glimwood Tangle, a lot of the times, guys, you're only going to be hitting 1 to 2 heads. And I think this winds up just being like a worse version of Durant or even the Lightning Toxtricity that we still have that can discard cards. But I actually do like the Magikarp that we have here. So Magikarp has the Raging Fin attack. For 2 colorless energy, does 10 plus 30 more for each Magikarp and Gyarados in your discard pile. So if you are able to get all 7 of these Magikarps and Gyarados in your discard pile without prizing any, which of course is going to be an issue here, you can hit for 220 damage by default. So with a choice belt, that'll nudge you up to 250. And then from there, maybe some stuff like Inteleon can get you over that hump to one-shot V-Stars, who knows. So unfortunately, even though I do like Magikarp, I think the damage output is just kind of just shy where you want it to be with this thing. And also it does have 30 HP as well, which is an issue since Inteleon is still going to be running around. when this set comes out, and this is just 2 quick shootings away from being picked off. So it's probably the best Magikarp we've ever had, for whatever that counts for, but it's still, it still might not be quite playable enough here. And the last Pokemon I want to point out today is going to be Radiant Eevee. This is going to be included in a premium collection, so should be pretty easy for you guys to get. I don't think this card is too great, unfortunately, but I think this card looks sick. Absolutely love the artwork on this thing, but it does have the Twinkle Gathering attack. You search your deck for a number of cards up to the number of different types of Pokemon you have in play, put them into your hand, then shuffle your deck. So, I mean, this is attack you want to use on like turn 1 going second, and it kind of requires you to have a ton of Pokemon already in play. And then even once you've used this attack, your opponent can still Marnie you, and you just lose those cards. So I think this is actually a pretty poor Radiant Pokemon, but hey, this is definitely a card the collector side of me doesn't mind seeing though. So definitely a cool looking card, if nothing else. But we still have some trainer cards that are a little bit more exciting. The first one's going to be Lure Module. So this says each player reveals the top 3 cards of their deck, puts all Pokemon they find there into their hand, then each player shuffles the other cards back into their deck. I don't think you will probably use this card for the seemingly intended purpose. Like, I don't think you're using this as a Pokemon search card. What I do think will be more likely is actually control players using this to force their opponents to draw cards. I know it's not always going to work on every turn, but right now control decks don't really have a way at expediting the milling process and making their opponent's deck out. But with Lure Module, this card does not give you the option to choose how many they take. You have to reveal the 3 cards and you have to take whatever is there. So control players, I think, will like this. So between this and the Snorlax, you never know, control players might be eyeing down this Pokemon Go set. We also have 3 supporter cards mimicking the different like faction leaders that are within the Pokemon Go game. So they all kind of do the same thing, but with a different type. So Spark here says draw 2 cards. If you drew any cards in this way, flip a coin of heads, attach a lightning energy from discard to one of your benched Pokemon. And obviously the same thing with fire and water energy. So Blanche over here, this is like the dollar store version of Melanie. You'll probably never use this card. It's pretty bad. Same thing for Spark. I don't think this card is too impressive. Maybe Vikavolt V, that's one of the few cards that I think could maybe consider this. So that's a thing, I guess. But I do think Candela, however you pronounce this girl's name, is probably the best of the 3. Just because even though we have Magma Basin to accelerate fire energy currently, one of the issues is that fire Pokemon with a 3 or more energy cost still need multiple turns of attachments to get up and running. And Candela kind of fixes that for players because you can attach return, Magma Basin, and if you can flip heads, get a 3rd energy. So these cards aren't too great, especially because they are just reliant on a coin flip like this. But if any of these were to see play, this would probably be my pick if I had to guess. And then for the last new card we're going to check out today is going to be Pokestop. And I gotta say, guys, this is a card that's had a lot of people talking, and for pretty good reason. It's a new stadium card, and it says once during each player's turn, that player may discard 3 cards from the top of their deck. If a player discarded any item cards in this way, they put those item cards into their hand. So this is perfect for those really aggressive turbo style decks. Like in standard, Mew VMAX definitely could potentially abuse this. However, I do still have some reservations there because you don't really have great ways at retrieving your special energies. So I do have a little bit of pause with Mew, even though at first glance it makes sense. Darkrai V Star, this seems like maybe a card that could be good for that, to grab those copies of Dark Patch. But in Expanded, this card definitely could have a home. Expanded is traditionally way more aggressive than standard format, and there's tons of recovery options for really any different type of card. So this could be a natural pairing, in decks like Mad Party and Expanded, Turbo Dark, etc. So this is a pretty insane card. Non-supporter based draw is usually some of the strongest effects we see in the game, and Pokestop is no different. Again, certain decks right now might not have ways to recover some of these discarded cards, and also your opponent can use this stadium, so you do have to keep that in mind. But I still think this is really strong, and I would bet money that this does see play at some point. And then from there, the last of the news is going to be all of the different sealed proc that we're getting for this set. I'm not going to go too in-depth on these, but if you guys want to check them out, they do have all of the images over here at Pokebeach. I think the big one people will probably be eyeing down has got to be the Elite Trainer Box, though. There is going to be a special full art Mewtwo V in these, so that is definitely going to be something players are going to be after. And then probably also the Radiant Eevee collection. I imagine this would be one of the more sought after ones. Everyone loves Eevee, and I think this is the only way you can actually obtain this card, as we know of right now at least. But that's going to wrap up things for today's video. I hope you guys did enjoy this early look at these Pokemon Go cards. I know I'm actually a little bit more excited about them than I expected to be. The Mewtwo V Star and the Pokestop card definitely have to be, I think, among my personal favorites in terms of the more competitive ones that we looked at. But as always, I want to hear what you guys in the community are thinking. Sound off down below in the comment section which of these Pokemon Go cards has you the most excited. And if you're feeling a little bit extra generous, you can become a patron at patreon.com/rarecandytcg or pick up some merch at rarecandytcg.com. Links will be down below in the description. But as always, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.